Greetings from Los Angeles, hence the title, Languid in Los Angeles. I hope some of you appreciate that alliteration effect. I'm here for work, and I wanted to make a quick video about this experience that I had last night, this work event of why I was here in the first place, what brought me here. So, my company last minute that I work for said, hey, can you make it out to this event? And I really didn't feel like going, especially because Miami to LA is like one opposite end of the country to the other. It's a 6-hour flight. So it's basically like going overseas to Europe. So I just really didn't feel like going. Also, it's around the holidays right now, right? So it's like work and motivation and productivity and all those things slow down, right? But when it comes to travel, everything intensifies, right? Airports and I hate all that stress. So I just, for every reason in the book, I just really didn't want to go, but it was expected of me to go to kind of front this event and be kind of like a person on the ground for this promo branding event. It also just seemed crazy to me to go all the way to Los Angeles for a one-time event that's going to be like, you know, a networking thing for 3 hours. But I went begrudgingly, and the whole time, you know, on the plane and stuff, I was like, oh, fuck this. And then I thought, you know what? This is an opportunity for a mindset shift, a perspective shift. Yes, you don't want to be there, but A, you're an employee. Like, this is your job. You are tethered contractually to this company as an employee. Part of it has to be that here and there you do stuff that you don't really want to do, right? So I had a moment on the plane of trying to practice that gratitude of like, overall I have it pretty easy. I make good money at this job. I work from home. I can do an occasional trip that I would otherwise not want to do, right? So I was like, you know what? That's a good mindset to have, to not come straight from a place of ego of just, I don't want to do this. And then I also thought, how many times do we limit ourselves because of that mindset of I don't want to do something? Meaning, I kind of had this epiphany on the plane. I thought, this is a networking event. I should be networking. Yes, I'm working for the company, but I can also kill two birds with one stone, right? And represent myself and be a professional and talk to people and just meet new people. And you know, in the back of my mind, I'm always like, how great would it be to meet a guy at these events? By the way, I get to the event and I saw a lot of familiar faces from VidCon, which I made a video about like 6 months ago. Some of you might remember that video where these two guys, same night, separate occasions, I felt that they were both hitting on me, and they were both presumably straight, like partnered to women. Well, one of them was here. This time, there was no awkwardness or advances on his part. So then I went into a whole thing in my head of like, did I make the whole thing up? Like, I know what I felt 6 months ago. Anyway, so I'm at this event, right? And it was a busy event. I talked to so many people there pushing our company. And I was the only person there from my company doing this, which is a whole other conversation. But in retrospect, I'm like, for true branding, I feel like you need more than one person just like repping a booth, right? And I worked it. Like, I worked the event for 3 hours straight. I was basically selling people on what we're doing. I was making small talk. I was handing out shirts. I was approaching strangers and just, you know, hey, do you want a shirt? And using that as leverage to start talking to them. And I went home really proud of myself by how extroverted I was, like how much I forced it, because naturally I don't want to do that, right? Like, I don't want to have small talk. I don't want to just like force conversations. But you know, when you're talking to people, you feed off of each other's like energy, right? Oh, that sounds like such a like a neo-spiritual thing to say, but you do feel something. And it's nice to talk to people who actually want to talk to you, even if it's because they just want a free shirt. And this photographer who was doing the event, like they're hired to photograph the event, she came up to me at the end and she was like, "You're a star. Like, you worked this. Like, you did your part. You really made lemonade out of lemons," because she knew that I had arrived, the only person from the team, with this empty table and just t-shirts, and that I tried my best to really present it more professionally, more creatively. So I came home, right? And I had this instinct of, that felt right. Like the way you carried yourself, the way you made lemonade out of lemons. There's a natural skill set there that should be exploited more. And I don't feel that the kind of person I am, and the older I get, the more I feel like this instinct gets louder, that I don't belong in an office environment. I don't belong in a traditional job dynamic. But then I think maybe that's just ego. Maybe everybody feels that way. Maybe everybody thinks they're above their job or their industry or working an office job. Because truth be told, if I did have something special in terms of people skills and like, you know, using my personality to my advantage, even professionally, right? I feel like I would be farther along with this channel or other seeds that I've planted over the years. You know, I have a side business that makes me money, but nothing to like live off of. And so I woke up with a strange sort of mindset of both getting a confidence boost from this event that I was working last night, but also in the same breath, like, what am I supposed to do? You know, what are my next steps in life? I do feel like I'm at this weird point professionally where I don't love what I do. I don't feel stimulated. And the next step would naturally be jumping to a new role. But I've done that so many times and then just felt so discouraged by the new place where I showed up, because I realized a lot of the same issues were present in terms of like office politics, management issues. I feel like the older I get, the more it's getting clear for me that I would thrive best in a very different kind of professional environment, ideally where I'm my own boss. And what's funny is the event last night, I was there by myself, right? So there's something I've noticed about myself where when I'm on my own, I actually totally thrive because there's nobody else to depend on. There's nobody to look to, and there's nobody who can like judge your performance, because it's almost like you're performing to a whole new audience of people who don't know you. And I've realized that a few times in my life professionally. There was a time where I was consulting for a company and I walked in, and they didn't prepare me for this. They didn't tell me it was going to happen, but it was a room full of like 12 people listening to me talk about my experience and what I could help them with. And I just kind of went into performance mode, and I was very charismatic, and I was like, well, what about this? And have you considered that? And it was totally off the cuff. But it's interesting that I'm one of those people who naturally has a nervous disposition, like for interviews. I always get nervous for job interviews, even one-on-one. And yet when I'm kind of thrown, you know, in the lines then on my own, somehow I tend to be able to finagle it and make it work. So all this was kind of going through my head last night, and I was thinking, what does that mean for my future and what my potential is, right? Because at the same time, if that was totally 100% accurate and true, I feel like certain things that I've done on the side would have come farther by now, like this YouTube channel. And I'm not saying that to complain. I love this as a passion project and the community I've built on here. But, you know, sometimes I see YouTubers out here who are not stimulating or don't really interact with their communities much. And let's just stick to one specific field, right? Let's talk about the gay YouTubers. There's so many whose content is not, it's not more interesting. I feel like I can objectively say that it's not more interesting than mine or anything more to offer, but yet they have come so much farther. And I'm not trying to compare myself and, oh, I wish I was, but I'm just talking just from a business perspective, right? Of this as a business, content creation as a business. I make money from this YouTube channel, but it's enough to pay for like coffee for a week or two. It's nothing groundbreaking. There are people though who make a living from YouTube. And I think sometimes people get lucky, and I think other times it's work ethic and it's discipline and it's strategy. So I'm saying all of this to say, on the one hand, I felt something special in terms of a spark at this event last night. And I was proud of myself for pushing through something I didn't want to do, a social event I didn't want to do, and totally like having it work to my advantage, and being a social butterfly and all that. It's kind of cool when you catch yourself being somebody different for a second in a way that is beneficial, right? To yourself selfishly and to whatever the cause is, in this case being my job, right? My company. But I was just kind of left thinking like, I feel like I could be doing more, and I feel like I would rather use that skill set for myself, for my own business, for my own brand. But then I think you are doing that. You have this YouTube channel and it hasn't come that far. I mean, yes, at the time of this video, I'm at 5,000 subscribers. I'm sure I'll get to 10K over the next few years, but that's not a huge brand, right? Like from a business perspective, that's not something I can live off of or build off of overnight. So I don't know if there's a complete point to this video other than just sounding off and curious about whether this is a universal feeling of you have these little moments where you feel certain kind of magic with something that feels instinctive to you in terms of performance. Like you're not really forcing it. It just kind of comes naturally to you, in this case, for me, to just be able to talk to people. I mean, even this, I'm talking to my phone right now and it feels completely comfortable. And yet I've met people who are like, oh, I want to start a YouTube channel, but I feel so uncomfortable talking to a camera. I don't know how to do it. And it's so bizarre to me because I could talk to a wall for hours and be just fine. And I guess that means there's a skill set there or a talent. Or maybe it's just narcissism, who knows? But I don't know, I have this yearning for more. And I have a friend who we talk about this, and she's like, I'm not meant for this office life for more than a few years. Like I'm meant for more, I'm destined for more. But my whole thing is, if you are, then you have to start doing stuff. You can't just say it. And I am the king of doing stuff and planting seeds. But truth be told, I still need a job, an office job, a traditional job, if we can call it that, to pay my bills and to survive. So that's kind of where I am right now. Trying to pay attention to that instinct, but also wanting to be practical and secure in my decision-making and not just jump to some crazy conclusion like, I'm gonna quit my job and do X, Y, Z. I did that years ago, as some of you guys might know. Back in 2019, I quit a full-time job and I started my business, side business in social media, and everything tangentially connected to that, including this channel. I started taking more seriously, started posting more frequently, started being more strategic. And I have made way bigger strides with that, but not enough to totally pivot in terms of my life and what I do day to day professionally to take care of finances. So if any of you have suggestions, if any of you have been here and had that same instinct, I'm curious where you are now and what you did with that instinct. The other thing I wanted to mention is it's kind of eerie to be back here. As I was driving in the Uber to downtown LA from the airport from LAX, which by the way is a nightmare. LAX is a nightmare of an airport. When you arrive, you have to take a shuttle in order to be able to call a cab or an Uber. It's just a mess. But driving into the city, I realized I haven't been here into the city since I moved out. Some of you might remember, if you've been subscribed for a long time, I lived here in Los Angeles in 2019. I didn't really love LA. I don't love LA as a city. But I've only been here since then in passing to get to the airport, to get to LAX. I actually haven't spent any time in Los Angeles, the city itself, since I moved out. Once or twice I went to Malibu, which is kind of farther out. It's not really Los Angeles as the city. So coming back, I've been kind of reflecting, and I also have been thinking about how the year that I lived here, part of the reason that I wanted to try living here was because this is a city that revolves around the entertainment and creative industries. And I thought maybe that's where I need to be, you know, to really exploit those aspects of myself. But when I was here, I did so many things. I did so many things to try to move that along in terms of like networking events and trying to connect with people. I even went to ASCAP meetings when I was here. ASCAP is a performance rights organization for songwriters. So basically, if you have songs published, they help you make money from they help you collect your money, your royalties, anytime your song plays, let's say at the supermarket or at the mall. So if you're Beyonce, you're getting a lot of money through ASCAP or BMI or any of these other companies, organizations. If you're, you know, someone's never heard of, I don't know, maybe you'll get 10 cents that year. But I was going to ASCAP meetings just to connect with people in music. And anyway, my point in saying all this is that I am all about planting seeds, but I find that very few that I've planted have really grown, at least the ones that I really wanted to have grow. And I feel like the last few years, I've definitely kind of taken a backseat in terms of really putting myself out there to get the things that I want out of life. And it's mostly been because of disappointment. Like I didn't want to feel disappointed anymore constantly, or constantly feeling rejected. Same thing with dating, right? At a certain point, you just want to back away and just live your life and find peace and joy in smaller things. And also I've just learned in life that sometimes when you push too much, you actually get the opposite result that you want. And that oftentimes things that you really want come to you kind of in serendipitous, bizarre, unexpected ways, just because you let go, not because you actually kept forcing it to happen. So I guess what I'm saying is this is something I struggle with, working off of or making decisions based off of instincts like I felt last night, and thinking, should I just kind of keep observing that and start brainstorming? Should I be planting more seeds, or should I just kind of let things ride out? Because I have a history of planting so many seeds and then getting disappointed when they don't flourish. But I will say that here and there, cool things happen. Like last night, that person who said, you are a star and you rock this. Like, it's little things like that that kind of make you feel like you're doing a good job in life and that you're where you're supposed to be. And not the last work event I went to, but the one before that in Texas a few months back, I ended up going to Dallas for one night. And I went to a gay bar in Dallas, this really cool bar called the Roundup Saloon. And a guy approached me there saying, are you the guy from YouTube? I watch your videos and all this stuff. And so when moments like that happen, it kind of makes you feel, it's almost like a sign from the universe that you're doing what you're supposed to. The things you enjoy doing are getting seen or are getting valued in some roundabout way, even when you least expect it, even when you're not aware of it or receiving that validation directly. And for me, it's a huge gift with this channel when you guys send really nice messages or supportive, even if it has nothing to do with the video, you know, just the comments that are like, I've been watching your videos and I love what you said about XYZ, and you know, it makes me feel less alone or crazy as a gay person. Like, that stuff to me is so important because you can't put a price tag on that. And it's something that is, we all go about our day either in survival mode or just trying to, you know, find an efficient way to go about life and pay our bills. And those little moments of connection, I guess what I'm saying is, to be able to bring that kind of solace to somebody, or joy for 5 minutes, or comfort, or stimulate someone who lives in a totally different place than me through just a video I made, that brings me some kind of spark that I also felt last night. And I want to keep leaning into that. I'm just not sure how to go about that. Anyway, sounding off. Will I have a video before the end of, yeah, I'll have another video before end of year. But otherwise, happy holidays to you guys. Happy New Year. And see you guys in January. Please let me know if there's anything you'd like to see different on my channel this upcoming year, 2024. Every year I try to, dare I say, rebrand. I try to find new things to talk about and to focus on, and have new themes. So I'm still kind of brainstorming for next year. But of course, always love to hear what you guys have to say. See you soon.